Arc Raiders has one major issue, and I think people are starting to catch on. This game is notorious for its community. This community is one of the biggest case studies on how human beings are actually like decent people. In most games that require like loot systems like Escape from Tarkov, Rust, DayZ, any of these type of games, you constantly see some of the most abhorrent behavior in video games. I mean, you literally will run into the most degenerate people that are just out there to ruin your day. But Arc Raiders is different. Arc Raiders literally is one of the best examples that human beings are still decent people, and it's been a blast, especially in solos, dude. Like half of the games that I'm running into are full of just great people and people that are willing to help you out or not kill you. If you work together, you end up getting more loot anyways. And it's kind of a crazy thing. Now in trios, it's kind of a different story. It's definitely a little bit more sweaty, a little bit less diplomatic in that. But solos especially is just awesome in that sense. And this is what differentiates Arc Raiders from all of the competition. But there's one huge problem. Arc Raiders endgame is not fleshed out enough or enticing enough to encourage cooperative play. But before we can get into that, we must first understand is what makes Arc Raiders so different from the competition. Why are players working together? One of the biggest reasons why people work together is because the loot pool is so horizontally skewed. Instead of a vertical tier system where this loot is objectively better than this loot, it really just depends on where you're at in the game. A great example is that light bulbs and cooling fans are pretty much worthless, but they become instantly valuable when you're working on the expedition because you want a prestige, you want to get this stuff unlocked, so now all of a sudden finding these cooling fans are super important. The same thing comes with a lot of the upgrade materials for crafting benches. Motors, for example. I threw out and discarded so many motors until all of a sudden I needed it. And then motors became one of the most valuable things to me. And since every player is at a different point in this horizontal progression, there's so much available loot and so many different players want different things. This heavily incentivizes working together because I can just tell somebody like, hey, I'm looking for cooling fans. Are you looking for anything? I'll find something for you if you find something for me. And then all of a sudden, it just makes sense to work together. Not only is it mathematically effective that way, but also since the loot is so horizontal, if you do end up engaging and fighting with somebody, you're not guaranteed to get loot that you're going to want. I mean, they could be running weapons that aren't that great. So you're risking dying for loot that may not even be worth it in the end. And this is beautifully designed. I don't know if this was intentional because it is just so beautiful. It seems like insane that it worked so well. The progression system, while genius, is almost like a double-edged sword. There is a huge problem with the late game. You kind of reach endgame pretty quickly in this game. It's kind of a slow ramp. It's like, okay, I'm getting loot, getting loot, getting loot. Okay, now I'm in game. Because pretty much when you get past blue weapons to purple weapons, that's really all there are. There are some legendary weapons, of course, but once you get to this point, you're going to be so stacked on gear, you have too much gear, is what it feels like. Like, I have to get rid of so many weapons just because it's hard to hold on to them with the way the stash system works. And this, unlike the beginning of the progression system, where everybody has a common goal of getting loot, once you have all the loot, that common goal disappears. And when most of the progression is tied behind this loot, and you now have too much of this loot, and you have all the loot that you really need, now the question becomes, what am I supposed to do in the game? And that really leaves you with just two options. And that is go out and use the loot that you've gained, which the way you use it is by going and killing people. That kind of removes the whole diplomacy aspect of the game. And now it is just a PvP game. It is strictly that because you're not going out in the world for anything else because you don't need anything else. The other option is really to just stop playing until new content is dropped, which is what we're going to see a lot of people do. I've seen this firsthand with Rust. I'm an old man, so I've played Rust since the Legacy days. I mean, the very beginning. And back then, people were so nice. Like, it was one of the nicest communities you'd run into. When you think of Rust nowadays, you're probably like, oh, what do you mean? Like, they're known for being the worst community out there. But Rust back in the day, everybody was nice. There were a lot of people that were just there to have a good time. I've seen communities go from being great to just becoming despicable very quickly. And I think that's what we're going to see here with Arc Raiders if Embark doesn't do anything. But now that begs the question, what can Embark even do? So when a lot of people are talking about the late game and how to fix it, they're looking at it from the vertical aspect of the progression system. And when I mean vertical, I mean like the scaling from, green rarity to blue rarity to purple rarity to gold rarity. And a lot of people think that just adding more items to the gold rarity or even adding a new rarity above that is going to fix the issues at hand. And I think that that's helping some of the symptoms, but you're really just adding to the problem. It's kind of a power scaling issue. If you watch any anime, like, you can't just keep adding more tiers. That's not going to fix anything. Adding more power levels isn't going to make people want to continue to play the game, because people are still going to end up in the same position they already are now. I think by focusing on what Embark is already doing so well, and that's the horizontal progression, is what's going to keep this game and this community so unique and so alive. Of course, adding new items, new guns, and higher tiered loot is going to be huge updates that need to be done in this game, because that's new content is the way to keep a game alive. In the meantime, we still need players to be able to go after something. And that's where I think adding weekly grind objectives, essentially, like for people that are done with the game, give them something that will give them maybe some external, even just money, maybe some stash, maybe some stats, maybe some temporary stats only for the next week. Maybe you get 20% extra stamina for the next week, and if you complete the next one, then you'll get a different stat boost. You know, some kind of way to incentivize players to go after this loot. So for example, let's say I log in and I need to get like 150 wires by the end of the week, and that's something that I can work on, and I'll get a stash boost. That's like 10 extra slots in my stash. That is going to keep me going out and looting instead of just going out and killing. If my stash is full, I am no longer just incentivized to go take out my kits and kill people. I'm also incentivized to go get those wires. And the problem is, though, is if everybody has wires, then that then de-incentivizes cooperation even more, because why would you go help somebody else find wires when you're also looking for wires? So there's also a solution to that, and that's by randomizing the items that you need to get. There's already so much loot in this game that is essentially useless after you already complete a quest for it or get the upgrades for it. So I think randomly getting items each week to collect, like where every person gets a different one. Like you may have the fireball burners, I may have rusted bolts. And if everybody gets a random task to get, and of course, Embark would be able to mess with the numbers of how much of each item you would need to get, because of course, some items are a lot harder to get. This would incentivize players to keep looting, even after you have all the loot available. This is a way they can get around having to just bloat the game with content to keep people interacting with the game. I think there's many different ways to go about this, and different boosts and different stats. Of course, they're the one that makes the game, so they would probably be able to come up with better ideas than I could. But I think if they doubled down on this aspect of the game, that would keep the game alive rather than losing a player base whenever the content drought comes. Because inevitably, they're not going to be able to come out with content all the time. That is one of the solutions that they can do to fix the endgame issues, that they just keep adding content. But that's so much of a strain on the company that I don't see that being sustainable. The game is already kind of looking like it's in a worse spot than it was a couple of weeks ago, so I'm really hoping that they do implement something like this. They've already implemented a temporary battle pass that is based off of XP. So I think if they took that and just added some randomized loot that you needed to go find in the world, because they really do have so much loot in this game that is just not being used. I mean, when was the last time you grabbed rusted bolts since you got the workbench done that required it? It's one of the first things you throw out because it's absolutely useless now. So if they add more ways to use this useless loot, I think it'll incentivize people to continue going out and continue looting. I don't want a lot of people thinking that I'm anti-PvP and only pro working together. If you see people in the comments talking about that, then you know that they kind of self-reported that they didn't make it this far in the video. But I actually love PvP, and I love the PvP aspects of this game. I just love the idea of having the option of going the diplomatic route and working together. It adds a lot of game variety, and I think for the overall health of the game, it'll keep it alive longer. There's plenty of times where I go and I don't use my mic and I just go and kill people. Not even for their loot, just because it is fun. I like taking my guns out and killing people. It's literally one of the main aspects of the game. But one of these unexpected aspects of the game is the community and everybody working together and doing things together. And that's part of the game design. I mean, the matriarch and the queen are a great example. The game requires you to work with other players. And now we're already seeing that that is starting to fade away a little bit. People have been posting online and talking about how the game is becoming a lot less cooperative and a lot more just shoot on sight. And like I said, I don't have a problem with just the PvP aspect of the game, but I do think that if it becomes a point where everybody just shoots on sight, it just becomes another extraction shooter and you lose what Arc Raiders has become. That being said, I hope that Embark manages to fix this issue, because the fact that we're already running into these issues so early on in the game's lifespan tells me that something drastic needs to happen in the near future if we don't want to see this game fade away and become just another extraction shooter. If you enjoyed watching this video, please make sure to leave a like and comment. It helps the algorithm a ton. As you can see, I'm a new creator. I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so if you want to help out to that, definitely drop a sub as well. I'll be making more videos surrounding arc raiders and pretty much any game I feel like it. So if you're a gamer, if you enjoy watching and learning about games and kind of looking at games from a different perspective, make sure to drop that sub, and I'll see you guys in the next video.